Greetings from Jerusalem, Jane. Just a brief update from Israel. I want to show you this precious woman. She's 8 months pregnant and she's holding photos of her 2 dead children, Asher and Yaakov. They were brutally murdered in a terror attack in Jerusalem, in the Amot area of Jerusalem on Friday, when a Palestinian terrorist got into his car and in high speed, we have seen the video, in high speed he approached a bus stop full of people, visibly, to anybody, visibly, young children are standing, including Yaakov and Asher. And this terrorist plowed into this group of people. 6-year-old Yaakov was killed instantly. 8-year-old Asher was severely injured, and their father, who was standing next to them, was also injured. This precious mother was brought to a funeral home and she had to identify 6-year-old Yaakov, who was brutally murdered in this terror attack. And he was buried shortly before Shabbat on Friday. During Shabbat, 8-year-old Asher passed away and he was buried after Shabbat. I saw photos of their siblings. There were 9 children, and 7 of them had to bury their 2 brothers, Yaakov and Asher, murdered just for being Jewish. The father was severely injured and he went to the hospital where he have had surgery, and he has still not, as far as I have heard today, got the news that his 2 sons was brutally murdered in a terror attack. And this mother, who is actually pregnant now in her 8th month, is sitting now having Shiva for her 2 murdered children. It is hard to fathom how anyone can be this evil. But like you know, those who follows me, all the terror attacks that I have been reporting about. The security establishment, the cabinet came together here in Israel, and they said, as a response to them murdering our children, murdering our citizens, 9 outposts in Judea and Samaria is now going to be legalized. What is more natural than for the Jewish people to build in Judea and Samaria, to build in their own home country, like Danish people are building in Denmark? So what happens again? Anthony Blinken and leaders of the European Union is out in one hand saying, oh, we condemn the terror attacks, but now they are out even more condemning Israel for legalizing that Jewish people are building in Judea and Samaria. It's absolutely outrageous. Be quiet. Always coming against the Jewish people for living in their own home country, calling it occupied territories in Judea and Samaria and also in East Jerusalem. And now this precious mother had to bury her 2 boys, 5 years old, 6 years old, and Asher, who was 8-year-old. I saw an interview with Yaakov's teacher, who said he was such a happy boy. He always came to school smiling, and he, on that particular Friday, he went to school and he was telling about how they were going to go dressed up and they will go to some relative's house in a pre-wedding event. And while they were waiting for the bus to go there, this Palestinian terrorist just murdered them in cold blood. We have to remember, when it comes to Israel, there's no peace partners. And Israel, the Jewish people, are living in their God-given homeland. Abu Mazen, who is supposed to be Israel's peace partner, has been in that seat, elected for 4 years, and he has now been there for what, nearly 19? Not having any elections, so he's not even a legal leader. He spent $17 million building a big presidential mansion in Ramallah. He spent $50 million to buy a private jet so he can travel all over the world. He pays $500 million every year to terrorists who is murdering Jewish people. Him and his cronies have stole literally $500 million also for themselves, putting it in their pockets, being so filthy rich and corrupt. Did you know that Yasser Arafat, the leader of the Palestinians before Abu Mazen, he stole $3 billion from the Palestinians' fund, and he stashed them in over 200 overseas bank accounts. The Palestinian leaders are not interested at all in peace or in any two-state solution. As long as they can keep the Palestinian poor, they can milk governments around the world for funds going into the Palestinians. When you see many of them, they don't get the money. No, they are going to the corrupt leadership, and then the money is going to paying terrorists who is murdering the Jewish people. We also had 4 rockets flying in from Gaza, where people who is living close to the border, again, literally have 10 seconds to run for shelter. You can't imagine the trauma these people are living under when the terrorists inside the Gaza Strip are deciding we are just going to send another rocket into Israel. Thank God we have the Iron Dome defense system who shot down 3 of those rockets, and the other one landed in an open area. Yesterday we had 2 terror attacks. An Arab terrorist ran up. He was 13 years old with a knife, and he stabbed a 17-year-old Jewish boy in the back while he was walking in the old city of Jerusalem. And also yesterday in the Shuafat area in East Jerusalem, when security guards and an IDF soldier, border police officer, came into the bus to do a search, another Arab teenager pulled out a knife and he stabbed the border police officer several times. And when the security guard was shooting at this terrorist, unfortunately, he also injured this border police officer, so he succumbed to his wounds yesterday. So, on Friday, 3 people were murdered in that terror attack. 2 brothers, 6 and 8 years old, and another gentleman, he was only 20 years old. He was married 4 months ago, all murdered, standing at the bus stop waiting for the bus by Palestinian Arab terrorists. Yesterday, 2 terrorists stabbing a border police officer and a young Jewish boy in the old city, and 4 rockets flying in from Gaza. I don't know if you hear about all of this in your mainstream media. That's why I'm trying to share it to you the best that I can from my little apartment here in Jerusalem. So again, a father is lying in the hospital having surgery, not yet being notified that 2 of his children were murdered standing next to him waiting for the bus, and has already been buried while he was undergoing surgery. And his other children and their mom is now sitting Shiva for their 2 dead brothers. It is just unbelievable. And when Israel say, you know what, the people who is living in Judea and Samaria, we're going to legalize these outposts, Anthony Blinken and the leaders of the European Union are now again up in arms, coming against Israel for Israel taking these steps that is preventing a 2-state solution. It's always the Jewish people paying the price. It's always the Jewish people being murdered, being shot at, being stabbed, having rockets flying. But they also are allowed to build in their own country because they want America and the European Union a 2-state solution. Try ask the Palestinian leadership. Like I said before, they're not interested in it at all. They just want to milk the cow and continue to get all of that money being poured into them while they are paying terrorists to murder the Jewish people. So please share out this video, as you probably won't hear it in mainstream media, and please keep praying for all the families who has lost someone in terror attack here in Israel. The list is so long. I'm so traumatized from telling you about all of these horrendous terror attacks, and the world reads the headlines, they say a few words, they move on, and so many families down here are missing a loved one when they're sitting at Shabbat dinner because they were buried because of yet another Palestinian Arab terrorist who just went out and wanted to murder as many Jewish people as possible, while at the same time they're firing fireworks and handing out candy in the streets, celebrating the murder of 6-year-old Yaakov and 8-year-old Asher. So evil. So please, for such a time as this, united, you and me are standing for Israel. And thank you for following me, Jerusalem Jane, on all my social media. God bless you. Bye.